you go.
What is up, guys? I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're covering some r/slash entitled people. If you're new here, please consider hitting that like, that subscribe, and maybe that notification bell if you enjoy the content, of course. And let's get straight into today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story is from Awesomeness693. Cannot sell alcohol after 8 PM on a Sunday. I work at Walgreens currently, and I live in the state of Indiana. In this state, we have a rule on selling alcohol. We can only sell alcohol between the hours of noon and 8 PM on a Sunday. But before and after those hours, sale of alcohol is restricted. Now that's out of the way, here's the story. A guy walks into Walgreens and goes to buy a bottle of Jim Beam Apple at 9:30 at night. 30 minutes until closing. I was working cashier and he comes up to me. He puts the bottle of whiskey on the counter and I told him that I couldn't sell it to him because hours of sale have passed and he can't buy the alcohol. He told me that it doesn't apply to him because he's from Illinois, and I said, that's not how that works. He looks at me, pissed off, and told me to scan it anyways because he's got a party to go to on Sunday. But even if I did scan it, the cash register will deny it, because it knows the hours of sale. He told me to do it like he was in a rush, and it denies the sale. I even showed it to him as proof, but that doesn't satisfy him. Now he wants me to call Strachan Van Til, which is a grocery store, to know if they sell alcohol. Of course, they do sell alcohol, but again, it's against the law to sell alcohol on this day. I said, they're just going to tell you the same thing, we can't sell it. Then he gets frustrated and tells me to go and get the manager, so we can get a phone call to Strax. I went and called the manager, so he could probably handle the situation better than I can. He did call Strax, and like I said, they told him he cannot buy alcohol now. After that he gave up, defeated, and walks out of the store. But before he did, he looked at me and said, thanks for nothing. Prick. I just love the little prick at the end there. Our next story is from Moog4451, handling rude bus rider. I've posted before, I'm an old woman who has run out of craps to give a long time ago. I'm sarcastic, I cuss, and I love to call people out on their bullcrap. Notice how I'm using crap as a substitute for shit. Keep it classy, folks. I ride the public bus on occasion, and being older, with 2 artificial hips and major back problems, I really prefer to sit rather than stand. This day I was using my cane because the walker is cumbersome on the bus. I got the bus to go home from being downtown and the bus was packed. Lots of older folks and people with obvious mobility problems. So I scope out the one empty seat, which was being guarded by a woman sitting on the aisle seat with her purse on the empty seat by the window. Now, this woman was middle-aged, medium build and looked perfectly healthy. I stood right next to her and asked if I could sit. She ignored me. I asked again, louder. She looked at me like I was something that she had stepped in at the dog park. So, being polite, ladylike, quiet-spoken woman that I am, I loudly said, I need to sit down before I sit on you. She sniffed and said, this seat is taken. I smiled and said, oh, I'm sorry, you must think I'm someone who gives a flying frig. You know what I really said. Move your ass over, now. Several other passengers giggled and the lady looked around at people looking at her and finally moved over. I sat down and quietly said, now isn't that much better, bitch? She looked at me and said, well, I never. So I just said, yeah, but I have. She got off at the next stop and several people giggled again. I love being an asshole. I love this lady. She's amazing. I just love the little sly. Isn't that much better, bitch? Just imagine a granny doing that. Oh, bliss. The next story is from Kirsty WH. Guy thinks everyone is magic. I work in a city few miles from my home and I catch a train in and out every day. The rush hour trains are way overcrowded because the service is honestly pretty shitty, but everyone has just kind of accepted this over the years and quietly makes the best of it while cursing under their breath, the way polite British people do. I also happen to be disabled, so honestly, for my own safety, I should get a seat, but if there's no seats available, I just hold onto the wall as best as I can. Suffered a massive head injury, so balance and dizziness is brutal, but luckily no mobility issues. And stand like lots of other people do when it's busy. This particular day the train pulls up and loads of people crowd on, so I wait on the platform till the rush is over, and then step on. Obviously there's no seats, so I find a space right by the door, where about 4 or 5 other people are standing there, and there's a handle on the wall, so perfect for me to hold on to. A lady next to me also has a knee to toe leg cast on and a crutch. She was also standing quietly with no complaints. All's good and usual. Then enters entitled arsehole. This guy looks exactly like the joke hipsters you see in the movies, with a big ginger beard and glasses and a big rucksack. The second he gets to the door, late by the way because the train was already boarded and ready to leave, he looks up and down the carriage, glares at me and the 4 or 5 other people squished together in the space between the 2 carriages by the door he's at, and huffs as loud as he can. Move. I honestly thought I was hearing things because it was such a stupid demand. There was absolutely nowhere to move to. We weren't all crushed together for the hell of it. There was no space in the carriage. Then louder. I said move. Come on, move down the aisle. He snapped it and gave us a stinking look as no one even looked up or responded. He obviously got pissy and barged forward. He pushed his way onto the train, barging between us all, hitting the girl with the crutch's leg with his bag, then me and an old guy who was in front of me, obviously trying to squeeze his way through us and not really getting anywhere. God, are you all deaf or something? Move, man. Now, I'm not totally deaf, but I happen to have to wear hearing aids because of my head injury, so I took this very personally and snapped. Who the fuck do you think you are? The guy obviously didn't expect any of us to say something because he turned around as if shocked to be called out on his bullshit and just stared at me. It was then I noticed he had a lanyard around his neck with his ID badge for work. Big mistake. You think you can treat people like that with your work pass on you? Think your employers would like you being a rude piece of shit? The girl is in a cast. We can't make any more room, so don't be so bloody arrogant. At this point, all the people around me were giving smirks and happy looks, so I knew I wasn't out of line, even though I snapped and was outright shouting at him and swearing. I may or not have called him a prick too. None of you fucking moved, you stupid bitch, he spat back, but quieter than me, and then he quickly grabbed at his ID as if to cover it and squeeze it further away from me about 5 inches, and then realised there was nowhere for him to go, so he just stopped and stood there like an idiot wedged between us. I was so angry my blood was boiling that he was so arrogant he could demand people move for him like that when he had no idea who we were or what struggles, and even an idiot could see that the train was rammed. The girl then with the crutches nudged and smiled. He's horrible. It calmed me down a bit because I knew I wasn't out of line, and I felt kind of vindicated. Next thing I have a tap on my shoulder, and the man who squeezed behind me with a briefcase nodded at me and the crutches girl and waved his hand at the ginger guy who was now silently sheepish in his squished spot. I work for his company. I don't know him, but I'm going to tell my manager and keep an eye out for him. Don't know, maybe I'll get back to his manager too. He said it deliberately loud. I think, because I've never seen a ginger guy turn so pale in all my life. Who knows, maybe briefcase guy was lying, but I like to think the guy got a good telling off. Our next story is from Travelling Grizzly. EP gets mad because I won't quit my job. So, this was last year when I was a graduate student working in an office at my college campus. I applied for the student job with 3 years of experience in that kind of work and a college degree. Not bragging, just background to show I wasn't your typical undergraduate employee with no qualifications, and it's important to the story. After 2 interviews, I got the job. About 4 months in, winter break is over and classes started up again. This meant we got a small influx of new students, one of which was an entitled person named Emily. I met Emily in the cafeteria as I was getting lunch, and after talking for a while, I realised my shift was starting soon, so I told her that it was nice talking to her, but I had to go get ready for work. She seemed really nice, so I thought we were fine. The famous last words. Cast me, obviously, EE entitled Emily. I ran into her a couple of days later, and she asked me, "By the way, do you work in XYZ office?" I said, "Yeah, I do. Why?" "Why the hell did you get hired? There's nothing special about you. I applied for that job too, and I didn't get it. What the actual fuck?" I said, I'm very sorry that the boss didn't pick you for the job. Did boss say why? Boss seems to have rather unique criteria for hiring from what I can tell. She said, "Boss said I don't have enough experience in that kind of office work. I mean, yeah, I've never worked in a job like that before, and it's not what I want to do for work, but it's still better than food prep for the cafeteria or a effing low-life janitor job. And I know the experience thing is total BS, and it's really because I'm brown. EE was half Hawaiian. You don't have any experience either. You should make this right and report her." I said, "Well, I actually have 3 years of experience in that field, and I applied at the beginning of the year, so that's probably why I got hired. But I wasn't there for your interview, and if you feel she discriminated against you, I guess you could file a report, or talk to her about it. We have someone possibly leaving soon, so it might be better to wait and try again. She said, "No, I was discriminated against for being brown and you should just quit and give me the job. If you don't, you're a effing racist too. I deserve that job more than you, so just do the right thing and leave and tell her to give the job to me." I said, "I'm sorry, but I really can't quit. I have to pay for tuition too and I have to go to class now. Good luck with whatever you decide to do about reporting or not." She said, "Stupid white racist bitch, you are effing racist. I'm going to tell everyone you hate brown people. I will ruin you." Keep in mind that this was the second time I'd ever talked to her. I don't know how she found out where I worked, and she was yelling that I'm a racist in the middle of a crowded cafeteria of college students, so I was rather interested in getting out of there quickly. She never did anything about reporting any discrimination, and she ended up with a different job in a PE rec centre, but she absolutely hated me for the rest of the year. Our next story is from Grogus Kiev. "This is my chair, you need to move." Words from EB on an empty public bus. Here I am, sitting in an empty bus on a cold December day a few years ago, after a full day of mountain hiking. Dozing off, dreaming of hot tea and warm showers, I hear the words, "Hey you, you," while receiving nudges in my kidneys with an old lady bag. I turn my head slightly and see this woman. This lady in her 50s with both hands full of bags, standing above me. We connect with our eyes, and you can see almost immediately the soul of a child that wasn't hugged enough. That moment my blood froze. I thought I'd made something terrible, like farting in my tired state. Luckily she was there for the rescue. "This is my chair, you need to move," she said in a commandeering, fear-inducing bitch slap requesting EB voice. My first reaction, grab the bag and move. I must have sat mistakenly here without realising that someone had already been sitting here. Second reaction, wait, something feels weird here, we're on an empty bus. I climbed the bus as soon as it stopped on its initial stop and had a quick chat with the only driver. First realisation, okay, I was first here and all the other seats are free. Dumbfounded, I turn to the lady and say almost sarcastically, "Sorry, you could sit here, right behind me, basically the same spot, but with more room for your bags." Well, dear readers, one thing you should know about me is I practice a lot of extreme sports. I get into a lot of extreme situations, while hiking, mountain biking and even running, but right there and then, my balls have reached my throat as fast as the person honking as a freshly turned green light. That fear, that bowel movement I experienced was the result of a single look from EB. I knew right there I have found my nemesis. She turned red, started spewing profanities, started yelling, telling the gathering people how the youth is so uncultured, without respect, how she deserved that spot, as she has always have sat there. By now the bus must have moved and reached its second stop, and more people are coming in the bus. She is sat behind me on a double chair, her bags and legs occupying the aisle seat, her butt on the other. I was actually amazed how many things she used to justify her position on the matter. To name a few, 1. I am old and you need to respect me. 2. You youngsters have no respect. 3. You should have been beaten more by your father as a child. 4. How are you not ashamed troubling an old person? Bear in mind, in my country, 50-year-olds are not considered old. Eventually other people involved themselves to shut her down, only to receive overwhelming and unequal attack back. One highlight was, "Look at yourself, you look like a prostitute," to a girl that looked no more than 12 years old. So far, the bus has reached a stop, and she stood there on the steps, holding the door open and still spewing profanities. The end was when the bus driver had had enough, jumped out of his seat, nudged the lady a bit so that the doors could close, and he returned back. Telling it now, I regret not starting applause there, but if there is any chance that he might be reading this, kudos to you, sir. As for me, I have no respect for any entitledness whatsoever. I love bus stories, they're always the craziest. Our next story is from Tan Sheriff Fluff. Karen wants me to ignore the rules since it's her. Okay, so this happened and I'm still fuming a bit. For background, I work at a pet hotel / daycare place. We also do grooming, but that's not important for this. Normally we open from 8 AM or 9 AM until 6 PM. The exception to this is on Sundays and Mondays, which is today. On Mondays I'm by myself. I leave at 2 o'clock when my boss and the owner comes in to watch over everyone until checkout. We are publicly closed all day from 4 PM until 6 PM, so people can pick up their dogs from daycare or from the pet hotel. We're unofficially open from 8 AM to 9 AM so that our usual customers drop off their dogs for daycare. Now the Karen of our story is very well aware of this since she is a usual. Karen is one of the rudest, stuck-up ladies that we have frequent our business. She will let her dogs just come into the building without holding their leashes. Sometimes she just doesn't even put leashes on her dogs, which we have told her countless times not to do. She doesn't know who is in the lobby, so there's always a chance her dogs will run straight up to a more aggressive dog that isn't okay with her dogs, and it will be harder to separate them. She will also stand and talk with whoever's in the front about something unrelated and unimportant while we have a line of clients out the door. She has also been known to show up 15 minutes before opening or after closing, expecting no repercussions. She does a lot of other small things that add up to her just being very self-centered and thinking our business revolves around her. Onto the situation. So it's about 10:45 AM, over an hour after drop off, and I was coming inside from filling up the outside water for the dogs. I heard doorbell going off and I ignored it twice since we were closed. My boss made it very clear to me not to answer the door to anyone, unless it was a person from the city or law enforcement. But I took my chance it wasn't them at all. The bell rings at least 2 more times, so I decided to peek out the door through our inside daycare room to make sure it wasn't an official person. Nope, just Karen. Since it was her, I just sighed and went back to the kitchen area to clean dishes. I knew I should have just went to speak to her, but she knows we were closed, so I figured she'd just get the hint. Nope, she continues to ring the doorbell for a few minutes, so eventually I just decided to go and answer it, and then tell her that I can't take them. I text my boss to let her know the situation on my walk up. As soon as she makes eye contact with me, she starts smiling, even though I pointedly didn't. I unlocked the door and made sure only to crack it open an inch or two. Karen says, "I didn't expect to go to work today, but," and I said, "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, but I can't take them. Boss said I'm not allowed to take anyone after drop off." Karen, who was all smiles just 2 seconds ago, flipped her whole demeanour. She was nearly scowling at me and actually tapped her foot. "But it's me." I said, "I understand that's you, but boss was very stern on this stance. I'm sorry. But I have to go to work now, and they don't like to be at home." Now that's a lie. Her dogs don't like being up here. They get put with a group, but they stay by themselves all the time. If a dog comes up to them, they either ignore them or try to snap on them on bad days. I'm convinced they'd rather spend their time at home than see us ever again. I said, "I'm sorry, Miss Karen, I'm just following the rules." She says, "I'm calling him then." She pulls up her phone and starts muttering under her breath, and she started typing. I couldn't make the most of it aside from, "I can't believe this," and I'm pretty sure some curse word. I guess she was trying to message him first, but I didn't really care. I was hoping he just wouldn't answer her. Karen was glaring at me, and she ended up deciding to call him. So I was petty and completely ignored her, to smile at one of her dogs and scratch her under the chin. Karen started huffing and mumbling under her breath as my boss apparently didn't answer. "This is ridiculous, I bring them all the time and spend so much money." I continued to ignore her and pull out my phone since I felt it vibrate. I got 2 text messages from boss. She knows better. I have to remind her of the rules again. Just take her dogs in and make sure she knows we're not doing this again. I rolled my eyes internally, but complied. I put away my phone and opened the door only a little wider, so her dogs were free to enter the building. I said, "Alright, boss said he'll make an exception this time." She said thanks, lacking all sincerity, and with another glare. I said nothing back before shutting the door in her face and talking to her dogs instead, as I led them to the back to go play with the rest of the dogs. Before I was out of earshot of the door, I'm pretty sure she called me a bitch, but I'm not completely sure, so I didn't mention it to my boss. If anything comes from it when she picks up this afternoon, I'll make an edit. Update: when she picked up her dogs, my boss was there. She asked for my name, which I had told her months ago, and I'm usually the one who takes them to the back for her. How does she not know me? Karen then proceeds to say she wanted an apology from me for acting so hostile. Boss told her that I was just following his rules, that he would not make me apologise to her for doing so. He told her next time I wouldn't let them in and charge her an extra $15 as an inconvenience fee. Today when she dropped off her dogs, I had my co-worker take them to the back for me and Karen completely ignored me. Honestly, it's an improvement. I love these little subtle entitled parents ones. I mean, that woman is a bitch, but it's like not as explosive as the usual entitled parents, entitled people that we see. But it's just your everyday customer that everyone deals with every day. So that's why I love these ones. They're just so genuine. What do you guys make of these stories? Which one was your favourite today? My favourite has to be the old lady handling the bus one, the one that just doesn't give a shit about life and will tell people like it is. I love honest grannies. They will just straight up rip you a new one. Which was your favourite of today's stories? Let me know in the comment below. And if you made it this far, in the comments, put Granny is a badass. As always, guys, I really appreciate you being here, for your time that you've taken out of the day to watch these. If you did like it, please consider hitting that like, as it really helps this channel out. And I will see you in the next one. Much love, guys.